All around the country, people have become disconnected from one another. They're staring at their screens and wearing headphones, driving solo, and with services like food delivery apps, many have few chances for human interaction anymore. But one man has turned his feelings of social isolation and loneliness into a business idea. Here's a look at how People Walker is helping Angelenos reconnect with something as simple as a walk in the park.
Essentially, my girlfriend and I had been ordering food a lot, and we made a rule that we were gonna walk to go get food and actually go to the restaurant. So we kept seeing the same signs for some personal trainers and also some dog walkers. Seeing those signs, I started saying, oh, maybe I'll just start walking people. And we would laugh, but then we would just start talking about what that would mean and what that could do for somebody. I'm that person who I don't necessarily want to leave the house by myself. The more I talked about it with her, the more I thought this is something that there's a lot of people that could use.
I use the People Walker service because I work on the computer at all kind of strange hours, I sleep all kind of weird hours, and I forget to leave the house. And so it's really wonderful if I know somebody's downstairs waiting for me, it forces me to leave the house.
When I started it, I was thinking about safety and motivation. Also in myself, I was the person who was sitting, working on my computer and not really talking to people all day. That turned out to be something that really resonated with people.
LA Times columnist Nita Lelyveld wrote about this app in the launch of her new column called City Beat. Congratulations on the new column.
Thank you. I'm thrilled about it.
Tell us what the genesis of it was.
So I used to write City Beat stories a few years ago that were just sort of intimate tales of life in LA, often about people finding sort of grassroots community in the city. I wanted to come back and use the same sort of intimacy that I used in my old stories to talk about some of the central issues that just affect us in our lives in LA. So things like the cost of living and traffic and urban isolation.
You've been using the at LA Times City Beat handle on social media, right?
For years.
And then asking people to hashtag my day in LA to help us all connect and feel like we're living in small towns.
LA is so big and so sprawling that often you only see your little corner of the world. And my thought was that with this hashtag, if we all showed each other a little bit of LA, we could see a broader world. And
tell me some of the kinds of things people are sharing
so
with you.
Sometimes people show funny little moments with their pets in their living rooms, but sometimes they show glorious postcards of what's most beautiful in LA, the mountains or the beach. And a lot of the times it's just little moments in the city or little observed bits of street art or something funny that happened, or they'll make an observation. Sometimes they write little haikus or prose poems about living in the city.
And this is all about reconnecting us in a really basic way. Talk about some of the other themes that you're going to touch on in the column.
I'm really interested to dig deeper into this idea that I touched on in the first one about urban isolation and how people find ways to create community in the city, because that's always been an interest of mine. I'm interested in the fact that you can live here and earn what seems like a good living and know that you would be rich on that salary in other parts of the country, but feel like you're maybe one bump away from something dire here because it's so expensive. I'm interested in how people feel about their neighborhoods, the fact that we have, you know, this enormous homeless population at the moment, and there's a great deal of frustration about how the city and the county are dealing with it.
And I love the fact that you're talking about loneliness. You know, in your first column, you said that half of the people surveyed said that they do feel loneliness. And only 53% of people think they have a meaningful human connection at any given point during their day.
That was a study that was done last year by the health insurer Cigna, and that just struck me that meant that almost half of the people they talked to, and it was 22,000 Americans, I think, said that they didn't have a meaningful conversation in person with another person.
And it's digital lifestyle. It's also entrepreneurship. You know, if you're working by yourself in your home office, you really don't see other human beings, which is how Chuck McCarthy, pro-walker,
right?
It feels kind of like Rent a Friend.
Yeah,
but
a little bit,
but it's working for people.
It's worked for the guy in that video clip that you saw, Sam Packer, who just says he wouldn't have left the house without it.
And I want, again, for people to reach out to you with their thoughts. If they have themes names or things they want you to touch on, right?
So I want my column to be a very personal column that's reported on the street with people in neighborhoods all over the city. And I've created a really simple email address for people to reach me at because I have a complicated name. It's just citybeat@latimes.com.
Nita Lelyval, thank you so much for coming in and telling this story. Look for Nita's column at latimes.com.